Hi, Ross. Hi, everybody out there. You are watching the Nova Nexus, a weekly Thursday night roundtable Torah discussion for the common man. I am your host, James, the idol smasher at gmail.com. Email me there if you want to get in on this conversation sometime, or you can join the Facebook page, the Nova Nexus, and we will get you on the mailing list. Everybody's here. We go up, and you know, lots of great people in chat. We got Yochanan, Ross, Rosalie, and yours truly. We are studying Pinchas today, or this week is our portion, and our topic is Moshiach. I couldn't think of a topic. Chad had a topic. So here we are with our topic, which is Moshiach. No working mic. That's okay. Nobody wants to hear from you anyway. I'm kidding. Gotta get you a mic. Okay, get you a mic. Get you talking. Well, I'll watch over here on the side chat and relay to the fine folks out there in YouTubeville what's going on. We have a new member, David, who calls himself a Torah observant Christian. So I'm hoping we can get him in here to talk, because we talked for like an hour and a half after our hangout the other night, and I was real surprised to know how many conclusions they had drawn from the text themselves, out of a Christian Bible and a Christian upbringing. They came to many of the same conclusions that you and I have about their religion and what they're doing, and things of that nature. And I found it amazing. We didn't get in much to Jesus. We didn't talk too much about the man, JC. We didn't get into that too much. I think maybe he was being kind, and it might have been that I was, that I had, he was a nice boy, nice guy, nice Jewish boy. And so I'm hoping he'll get back in here and we can talk about Messiah from his perspective. So David, if you are watching out there, or you're going to be watching, come in and chat.
I met good old David through Reuven. He came in through a couple of years ago. It's good seeing him again. The first time he told me, he was a Torah observant Christian, I said to him, well, what does that mean? The nails were kosher? I mean, but it's a good. I like it. I like the guy. He's a good man,
and he's smart.
Hopefully
It's he could keep up. He was bringing up stuff I'd forgotten. Well, hopefully we'll get Dave back in here. He joined the Nexus.
Can we get a few? This is actually interesting. Parsha. Was there a particular reason why we discussed the Mashiach this week, or?
As you might have seen in Facebook, I could not for the life of me think of a topic. I kept wanting to go political. I'm working on getting an audience or some participants, maybe for a Christian open house, a Muslim open house, and an atheist open house. It's the atheist one I'm really looking forward to. And getting together with some people and having a chat, and, getting some questions and being challenged a bit. But I couldn't think of anything this week. I haven't prepared for it. And so I asked everybody in the Nexus, and Chad's the only dude who responded. With Moshiach. And the other thing was about Pinchas. Let me read, or you could type it probably in the side, and I could read it. There's some, and I had to Google the word because it was killing me. I didn't know what it was. And well, I don't know where it is. Oh, or the miscegenation.
Misogynist?
No, it's.
I think that's it's like when you mix breed or something, right?
Yes. Group identity.
Yeah.
There he is.
Yeah, I got my phone working now.
Hey.
It's miscegenation.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like mixing.
It is a tongue twister.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's quite all right. It's just a notion of not breeding with another race in a sense, or another people. And the end of the previous Parsha, Balak, is all. That's where it leaves off. Then it picks up where we're at this week with Pinchas. And it's, I mean, Israel was being stricken by death for their people breeding with women who worshipped Baal Peor, foreign peoples. And they were dying by the thousands until Pinchas came along. That's all.
I find it interesting. You know, Torah is one. It's just funny how it is. I don't know. I think it is. I don't know if funny is the right way of putting it. It's like the cure and the blessing and the punishment and all of it's like wrapped into like it's all together. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you speak Lashon Hara. Oh, you have to sit outside the town for a week. Well, you can't talk to no one. So that it's like the punish. You know what I'm saying? It's like built in. Like, oh, you're gonna mix with another group of people. Oh, you're gonna die off. It's kind of like it goes in together. If that makes any sense.
Yes.
Here's where we left off last week. That's a good point to bring up. So I'm going to start with for those of you following along at home. The parsha this week starts in Numbers chapter 25 verse 10. And whoa, my bookmarker was in Devarim. That's not where we are. And it goes through. Sorry, guys. I hate dead air. Where does it go through? Oh, it goes through 30 verse 1, I believe. Yes. So we're going to back up to last week's, which was Numbers 25 through 9. Israel settled in the Shittim, and the people began to commit harlotry with the daughters of Moab. They invited the people to the feasts of their gods. The people ate and prostrated themselves to their gods. Israel became attached to Baal Peor, and the wrath of Hashem flared up against Israel. Hashem said to Moses, "Take all the leaders of the people, hang them before Hashem against the sun, and the flaring wrath of Hashem will withdraw from Israel." Moses said to the judges of Israel, "Let each man kill his men who are attached to Baal Peor." Behold, a man of the children of Israel came and brought a Midianite woman near to his brothers in the sight of Moses and in the sight of the entire assembly of the children of Israel. And they were weeping at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Pinchas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the Cohen, saw, and he stood up from amid the assembly and took a spear in his hand. He followed the Israelite man into the tent and pierced them both, the Israelite man and the woman, in her stomach, and the plague was halted from upon the children of Israel. Those who died in the plague were 24,000. And that's a lot of people. So I'll go from there. We're going to read that was out of the Stone Edition. I'm going to read out of the Gutnick here about this week's Parsha, why we name it after Pinchas, why, what it means and how it relates and all that good stuff. Here we go. What is the connection between Pinchas, who zealously avenged his God, bringing relief from a plague of divine anger, and the other concepts which arise in Pinchas? The census, inheritance of the land, and the festive sacrifices. Surely the name of the Parsha should reflect the entire content of the Parsha and not just its beginning. Furthermore, what is the connection between Pinchas, Parsha Pinchas, and the time of year when it is read? Now, during or immediately preceding the 3 weeks of mourning for the destruction of the temple, our sages taught that Pinchas possessed the soul of Eliyahu, the prophet who announces the true and complete redemption. It is thus not surprising that with his righteous indignation and passionate vengeance, Pinchas achieved a somewhat messianic transformation for the Jewish people at his time from a situation of spiritual deprivation or national emergency, the plague, to one of divine satisfaction. The divine satisfaction manifested itself in a number of ways. The census, which was an expression of God's affection for the Jewish people because they're, quote, because they are precious to him, he counts them all the time. That's Rashi on Bamidbar 1:1. The permanent inheritance of the land of Israel via a divinely inspired lottery, and finally, the daily Shabbos and festival sacrifices, which are associated with joyfulness and celebration. The time of our Parsha is thus the transformation of the Jewish people from the spiritual deprivation to the virtuous, from spiritual to virtuousness. Sorry. It is no coincidence, therefore, that Parshas Pinchas is always read at the outset of the 3 weeks. For reading this Parsha empowers us to transform these 3 bleak weeks of Jewish history into days of feasting and rejoicing with the true and complete redemption. Rambam at the end of Laws of Fast Days. Practically speaking, Pinchas has set an example for all of us, showing us how to bring about this transformation, namely that whenever it is possible to further the moral or spiritual standing of others, one should not stand back and ponder, surely there are greater people than myself for this task. Rather, like Pinchas, one must rise to the moment without hesitation. And just as God granted Pinchas the soul of Eliyahu to carry out his mission, likewise, God will infuse every one of us with the necessary spirit to transform our current exile to a state of redemption. It is our job, however, to galvanize that spirit into action. Based on Sichas Shabbos, Parshas Pinchas 5749. Likutei Sichos Volume 2, pages 342 through 344. Without hesitation, kind of like going into the land. The leopard is decisive in every move, therefore it never knows fear, never hesitates. It knows where it needs to go, and therefore it goes without fear and without hesitation and without falter. Way of the leopard, Kung Fu stuff. Yes. Torah is Kung Fu. Kung Fu is Torah, you know. Anyway. Thoughts, anybody?
I'll try if the noise is not too bad.
Go ahead, Ross.
I said I'll try if my noise is not too bad.
Yeah, I can hear you. You're good.
Okay. At one point, I did notice that Pinchas, son of Eleazar, also it says son of Aaron, but Pinchas, his father, Eleazar, married one of the daughters of Putiel, which we know is Jethro, right? And
Really?
yes. It doesn't give her name, but it does say that it's daughter of Putiel. Putiel is one of Jethro's 7 named. So that would make his mother a daughter of Jethro, which was the priest of Midian. His aunt would be Zipporah, which is Moses' wife, which is also a daughter of Jethro. And Jethro would be Moses' father-in-law, along with Eleazar. It would also be Eleazar's father-in-law, but that's not mentioned here. These are all Midianite connections for Pinchas. When this went down, at one point, thought, wow, Pinchas can't stand to see his own people come in and do this to the children of Israel. That was one motivation that I had early on thought was the case.
Very good. I did not know that about his birthright. So I guess, well, it's easier to, we know it's easier to convert, that women are easier to convert. But wouldn't they have had to convert at this point? I remember Rabbi Katz saying that there is no one like Ruth, that there will never be another Ruth, that was, I want to say a one-time thing, but no one was as special as her. Yes.
Well, actually, if you read the text closely and go back to Exodus, you'll see that Pinchas was already alive in Egypt and came out with the group, with everybody else. Pinchas was already alive.
I was talking about Rabbi Chaim's blog, couple blogs back, about the world returning to, or about Israel turning to the priests for guidance, and the world turning to the priests for guidance. And it struck me now every time I've been reading, and when I hear of Aaron, a son, a grandson, as Pinchas is, you know. I think priest. I think a certain breed of people. I think, and the fact that, yeah. Now, see, that's interesting. A Cohen could marry a convert.
No.
No. How did he marry the daughter of Jethro?
The daughter of Jethro, yeah. Daughter wasn't a convert.
Oh. Oh, so she was already, at this point, she was born into the tribe.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I'm glad we have these little sit downs. You know, whenever I read about the Midianites, I know that eventually, you know, they you know, is that, you know, I don't mean to do a what if with the Bible, but what if? I feel bad for the Midianites because their shepherd left them. And they turn into, and it makes me wonder two things. One, if Jethro would have stuck around, maybe he could have guided them better, you know, because they're, you know, they act up and and God's disgusted with them. You know, at the same time, were they, if they lost their shepherd and they revert, you know, or if they you know, embrace their animalistic nature, if you will, were they really a solid people to begin with? I mean, Moses grew up there. Apparently, everyone there identified the mountain of God, or it was well known it was the mountain of God. And then Jethro brings Zipporah and Gershom and his children, Moses' children. They greet him and they stay with him and they go on. And then the Midianites, from there on out, seem to be kind of putzish, you know. So I kind of feel for him. It's like, you know, if that would be tough for me to be Jethro. You know, that would have been I think that would have been for me personally, because we'll hear more about him. I just, you know, the Midianites just went to pot, you know. They just kind of, they fell off the moral wagon or something. If Jethro stayed behind, would they have been a better people? Would it have been possible? Anyway. Just when I hear Midianites, I'm like, oh, Jethro's people. And then they're, then God's pretty disgusted. Oh, your heart kind of drops. This is Jethro's bunch. I mean, can we say that Jethro's absence is what led them down the path they obviously went down? Wouldn't they have known something? Wouldn't something have stuck around? I don't know. Got a message from Doreen. I love Doreen. I can tell you one thing, most people don't understand it. So am I wrong here, guys, about the Midianites? Were they doomed from the get-go? Jethro was basically exodusing himself from a bad situation?
No, if you can you hear me shake your head?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
I still say that when Jethro did finally pack up and go along with Moses, he had taken or redeemed all of the sparks of holiness that he was ever going to get from the Midianites and took them out. Once he extracted those Midianites, there was nothing left any good there. Do I make sense?
Yes. That's good to know. So at the time he left, it was a clean slate. And those that were left behind weren't worthy to come along anyway. Go ahead, Rosalie.
It's like kind of like Sodom and Gomorrah.
I was thinking more like the non-Jews who left with the Jews in Egypt. It's like, God says to Moses, you don't want these people, leave them behind. Moses, haggles with the Lord. He says, this is the best we're going to get. We're going to schlep them out too. I mean, that's kind of like the same thing.
Yep. Thank you, Moses. Thank you, Moshe Rabbeinu. This is an interesting.
A little bit of go ahead.
No, please.
No, you first.
All right. I just found an interesting. It was verse 16 in chapter 27. May Hashem, God of the spirits of all flesh, appoint a man over the assembly. And and I thought that was interesting. I was going to read a commentary that jumped out at me. God of the spirits, one of all the ways Moses could have addressed God, he chose this one. Instead of referring to God's omnipotence or wisdom, he spoke of God's knowledge of the intricacies of the human mind and personality, of God's knowledge that every person has his own virtues and foibles, and that the best way to lead is to understand the needs of every follower. Moses thus implied that the sort of leader he wanted to succeed him was one of who, as much as humanly possible, embodied these divine characteristics as to accommodate the individuals who comprise the nation. That's Rashi. God of the spirits. God of the spirits of all flesh. So, I guess when you're praying to God in different names, you're kind of categorizing what you're praying to God about. What were you going to say, John?
From what I read, this parsha has a bit of a discrepancy. I guess I don't know what you want to say, a blunder, whatever error, I don't know. But the way the inheritance of the land is written out is different from, I can't remember, there's a different parsha where the land is divided differently. The parsha escaped my name. But how do we divide the land? So the divided by the 12, it's divided by 12, right? But it's not by 12 tribes. There's one tribe that gets 2 portions, right?
Right.
That's Manasseh, that's Joseph, right? The Joseph's 2 sons is split up twice.
Right.
But in this week's parsha, it seems to conclude that, I guess you would say the Levites would get, the Joseph would be 1, not 2, if I'm saying this correctly, and it would be divided from the Levites would get land in this parsha. I don't remember how it goes, but this is the discrepancy. And later on in the Torah, it says that you don't give land to, it's a prohibition. You don't give land to the Levites.
Right.
So that's the discrepancy. So it seems like in this week's parsha, they do inherit land. Let me see if I can find the verse.
All right. I'm flipping as well. Here's the census. We talked about, oh yeah, all the high holy days, Pesach, Shavuos, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot coming up. Sukkot is right around the corner, isn't it? Sukkot? Sukkot? No. The 15th day of the 7th month. Yeah, I don't see anything about the land. Let me know, though. I have here a list from Judaism 101. This was just a quick list. It was one I knew I could go to and grab of different messianic prophecies that talk about either Messiah or the end of days. I thought maybe we could talk about some of them, particularly Isaiah 2, which is my favorite because it's so clear and concise and cut and dry and kind of God, spells it out for you. Let me see if I can find Isaiah chapter 2. The whole chapter, I think, is what they refer. Yeah. It shall come to pass in the end of days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established as the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, let us go up the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And he shall judge between the nations, and shall decide for many peoples, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. How do I know the Moshiach hasn't come? When this happens, we'll know. That's the neat thing about, I think, about the Jewish Messiah, if you will. It's not so much as about the man as it is about what happens in the world when he gets here.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, if you have to argue about whether or not the Messiah has come, he hasn't come.
And there shall come forth this is in Isaiah chapter 11, and there shall come forth a shoot out of the stock of Jesse, and a twig shall grow forth from his roots. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and fear of the Lord. And his delight shall be the fear of the Lord. And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither decide after the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and decide the equity for the meek of the land, and shall smite the land with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. Remember, Edom, Esau, the power is the sword. Israel, the power is the word. One day the word will overcome the sword. One day Israel will overcome Edom. And that's a perfect example right there. And the righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins. And the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and little children shall lead them. Let me put in the side chat in case anybody wants to jump ahead. I want to put this list in the side chat. I'm going to go to 42, Isaiah 42, and there's more. I'm just reading this out of Isaiah because this is just good stuff, and you know I think it's a good base. Yeah, this is brought up before about God being a man of war. Behold my servant whom I uphold, mine elect in whom my soul delighteth. I have put my spirit upon him. He shall make the right to go forth to the nations, nor lift up, nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. So he's not going to be a preacher. A bruised reed shall he not break, and the dimly burning wick shall he not quench. He shall make the right to go forth according to the truth. He shall not fail nor be crushed till he have set the right in the earth, and the isles shall wait for his teaching. Okay, I got to ask everybody here because I don't know enough, possibly. Ross left. He'll be back. Yeah. Probably just got home. Does the world get so bad that Moshiach comes to salvage what's left, to save the world? Or is it to the point where we reach a utopian world and then he comes to confirm it? I know there's
either way.
Either way.
It's either the Mashiach will come ascending on clouds, or the Mashiach will come riding on a donkey. Meaning, if the Jews aren't worthy of having a Mashiach, you have to come by cloud. Meaning, only a miracle, right? It's only nothing they achieved to do it. Only through a miracle. A donkey, meaning he comes riding on a donkey, meaning he's as everyone else. Elevated at, he's like just a regular person.
Humble,
yeah, humble.
Gab over here in the side chat. If it could be either way, but it's pretty obvious which direction it seems.
Right. Yep. I think we're like, let's root for the good ending.
Because we need it now more than ever.
What's very interesting is that in Ezekiel, in the Ezekiel 40 and onward, it talks about the Messiah. It refers to the Messiah as the Prince. And it talks about the Prince bringing a sin offering for the people. And also that this Prince will also have physical descendants, will have children, will have a family. The Christians love that one.
Yeah, he sets up a dynasty, doesn't he?
Yes.
So like Cohen can only come from Aaron, priest can only come from Levite or Levi. There's going to be a particular family for, I guess, for the kings. This would be the dynasty would be for the king, wouldn't it? For the throne, David's throne.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd also say there's a saying that Moshiach can come in every generation, so I think that's further evidence, I guess, of the on the donkey or on the clouds, utopia or dystopia, because it's possible anytime.
Right.
That it's taught that we don't try to hasten the coming of the Messiah.
Now, you're allowed to, quote unquote, hasten it. You're not allowed to try to predict it. You're not allowed to try and make definitive pronouncements like, oh, the Messiah is certainly this guy, or, a Messiah is going to come on ... such and such date. And the funny thing is you see idiots doing this all the time, but.
No, we want to hasten the coming. I mean, doing this study, this hangout right now at this moment, a mitzvah. I mean, that could be the straw that breaks the donkey's back, or the Messiah that breaks the donkey's back.
Yeah, it was, it was over a topic of, it was the Zionist topic is what it was about, and it was me, but I was somebody. We were talking about, how'd this go? Oh, Jew go home. I want all the Jews to go home. Why do I want all the Jews to go home? Because the sooner we get everybody there, the better off the world will be, was my reasoning. The sooner we get all the Jews home, the better off it'll be. I'm glad to have you here, and we're pals for life. But and he found that kind of off-putting. He's like, you don't want to push for it. You can't make the Messiah come. And maybe I just read him wrong at the time. I thought, yeah, shouldn't we hasten it? Shouldn't we do everything we can? If it's a utopian world that's being described here, my question's always been, do we need a Messiah? We need a king. Okay, we'll get the king, but do we need a Messiah to build a better world? Gav says that God will not let the Jewish people stay in places we don't belong for too much longer.
It's fun. I don't know I can't find the discrepancies on the land. I'll worry about that next time I figure that out. But it doesn't really matter. But the funny thing about Judaism is, I guess you could say the majority, I guess, of the history would be that pretty much the Cohen were in charge. I mean, when did they get a king? A couple 2,000 years after everything's set up. I mean, it took a while for them to even get it. So I guess for it again, I mean, it's gonna be a while.
That's good. Judaism's about making do with what you got. Making the best of what you have. Ooh, that's even better.
You know, the real power and authorities in the Cohen. You know, when you think about it, you know, what does the king actually do anyway? I mean, he doesn't really do anything. If you really think about it, I mean, does he? I mean,
Oh yeah, the king does a lot,
oh, Rabbi says, okay, go ahead.
quite a lot. It's the king's responsibility to raise and lead an army. It's the king's responsibility to keep the upkeep for the temple. It's a lot of things the king does, a lot of very important things. There's also a lot of restrictions on what a king can do as well.
What do you mean by the king takes care of the temple? Isn't that I'm just going off the top of my head. Isn't that like a Cohen? Doesn't the Cohen run the show?
The Cohen work there, but they're not responsible for its upkeep. They're not responsible for making sure that it doesn't fall into disrepair.
Oh, he's paying the bills, is what you're saying. He's keeping the lights on.
Keeping the lights on, plugging potholes, that type of thing.
Executive stuff, yeah.
Go ahead, Chet.
Also setting guards around it, I thought.
Yes.
Yeah. He would lead the legions. Of course, we wouldn't need a war at that time.
I think that would be the topic for next week, James. Responsibilities and duties of the king.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, but we've had so very few good kings, and a lot of very rotten ones. So,
well, it bears to you gotta ask, why did the temple come down? The second temple, they actually had Rome install a king for them.
Yeah, a puppet who wasn't even fit for the job and who wasn't even Jewish.
He wasn't?
Herod the Great? No. He thought he was. He was like these people today, like the Reform movement, people that have Jewish fathers but not Jewish mothers that, like, oh yeah, I'm Jewish too. No, sorry, Skippy, you're not. But Herod the Great's mother was an Arab princess. His father was an Idumean, which were a group of people, Edomites. They were Edomites that were under the reign of Jonathan Hyrcanus. Were forced. This is the only time this ever happened in history. There was a forced mass conversion to Judaism, where they had a choice. You either leave this territory that we annexed, you'll convert to Judaism, or we'll kill you. That's kind of like one of the things that happened, and so you end up with this guy named Antipater, who was an Idumean convert to Judaism, who married an Arab Nabatean princess, and they had a son named Herod, who became Herod the Great, who thought of himself as being Jewish, but he was not regarded by the people as a Jew. But according to Jewish law, he wasn't a Jew. He was very, very much hated. He was regarded as kind of like a foreign king that was appointed over us without our consent.
Is he the only one that was installed? I thought there was a king that wasn't. He knew he wasn't fit for the job, but the people liked him.
His grandson.
Okay.
Herod Agrippa.
Okay, that's what I heard, that the last king people actually liked, that he did his best and the people took to him or something.
Yeah, he did his best. It wasn't enough, but he did his best.
I didn't know Herod Agrippa was actually a king. I thought he was only like the tetrarch of Judea. I could be wrong.
I mean, there's really no difference after that. It was the Herodian dynasty. He was the last of the Herods.
It wasn't only kings that were installed, but also the high priest was a position that was paid for.
Yep, absolutely. They bid on it. It was like an eBay type of thing for the job. The last good high priest was Simon the Just, but he was gone long before Herod.
That's before Hillel and Shammai's time.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
The early Second Temple period.
I heard, I don't think it was you, but I remember a year or two, somebody in this chat was talking about how in the Talmud it said a number of years before the temple was actually destroyed, sacrifices stopped. Do you know anything of that?
No. So there's a story in the Talmud that when the same guy I just mentioned, Shimon HaTzadik, the righteous Simon, the last righteous high priest, when he died, so the story is that there used to be a white cloth in the temple, and every year after the Yom Kippur sacrifice, it would turn back to the color white, signifying that the sins of the nation had been forgiven. And after Simon died, it stopped turning white every year. It was just one less obvious miracle.
Thank you.
Apparently, I think it didn't it like rip in half. Apparently, when baby JC got nailed. I think that's what it says.
New Testament. That's not from a source we can go by.
I'm just saying. Ripped in half.
In the gospel stories, yes, there was a curtain in the temple that ripped when Jesus died.
See, they should have wrote it that it went back to white. That would have been like the better fix. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, it would have, wouldn't it? I'm just thinking because he is the most popular secular Messiah, if you will, if I can use that term. In our time, what would have people have thought if we put aside the notion that there was, if we try to go and be as favorably as possible with what we historically know about the man, would it have been his zealous nature that would have caused people to follow him? I know we had, and I can never remember his name, and it's probably good that I don't remember the man's name. 1600s, 1700s, another fellow rose up, and everyone thought he,
Shabtai Tzvi.
Yeah, and everyone thought he was the Messiah or whatever, and it actually caused great harm.
A lot of harm. Yeah, I mean, false messiahs always cause harm. That's why they get so much bad press in the Talmud and everything. I mean, the type of person that Jesus of Nazareth was in the first century in Judea was not particularly rare. It was actually more of like an archetype. There were a lot of people, especially from the Galilee, who collected large followings, who supposedly worked miracles and did healings, things like that. And we have quite a bit of literature written about them. And Jesus was by far not the only one. The only thing that's different about him is he became the focus of another religion. But you have people like I'm trying to remember what the name was. You have Judah. What was it? Judah the Galilean, I think, was one. Who was another one that was crucified by Pontius Pilate. But he was very, very militant. So I mean, yeah, basically anyone that wasn't King Herod that claimed to be king or had a messianic following was seen as a threat. So that's why they always got the death penalty whenever they were caught.
Apparently, all these people saw the same problem too. Apparently, I mean, it was a little too late, I guess. But if they were so desperate, you know, anything's better than this guy, you know.
Well, you have to understand, this is very bad, very, very, very bad times.
Yeah.
And when Rome occupied the country, I mean, imagine just having to live in constant humiliation, having to pay taxes to a foreign empire that if you couldn't afford them, they'd kill you. It was not a fun time to be in the land, so to speak. And it's not really that surprising there was so much popular resentment that very often boiled over into physical violence.
Now, we have a couple references I know of. One I think was in last week's Parsha of Moshiach, or who we call the Moshiach. I don't know what to call him because there's no the Messiah in the Bible. And I remember hearing Shiloh in Genesis. But as far as, if you're like, us looking out, on the outside, if you will, looking in, there's really nothing in the Torah that guides us in recognizing the Messiah, is there? There's really nothing there. I mean, like John was saying, we've got the Cohen, we've got the Levites, we've got sages and rabbis, but there's no king, is there? We've got prophets, but the reason why I'm bringing this up is because there's no real way to ward yourself. We know what to do with witchcraft. We know what to do with like Merculus and Baal Peor. We know what to do with someone who's just making miracles in camp, or for that matter, making miracles and using that awe to bring about a separation of the people from Torah. But we really don't have much on false messiahs, do we? Or would they fall under a false prophet or a witch?
Yes, they would fall under a false prophet. Yes, absolutely, false prophet. The biggest is the person who claims to be the Messiah. There's two things: is he Torah observant? Does he tell you to drop anything from your observance of the Torah? Does he start changing laws and changing rules? That's one way. That's a red flag right there. Another way is we have all these prophecies from the prophetical writings. Does he match them? If he doesn't match them and he's not keeping the Torah, he's not the Messiah. It's really that simple. If he's teaching others to break certain laws, that type of thing.
Okay, that's only going to beg the next question, which must follow, is can we consider the Messiah and those who follow in his stead on the throne prophets? Would they be prophets? Would they? Would a king of Israel be prophetic? Could be.
Mm-hmm. More often than not, they were advised by prophets in the day, and that's another thing too. You can expect simultaneously at the same time that we have a king, that we get a king back, that we have some type of king, a legitimate king. At the same time, you're also going to see a return to prophecy, to legitimate prophecy.
Oh,
because I thought in general. Oh, go on.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just thought in the Messianic era that prophecy as a whole was going to be pretty much a human trait.
Wouldn't that be nice?
I could be totally wrong, but I swear I've heard that before.
It's a Kabbalistic concept, but I don't subscribe to that.
Certainly, a worldwide knowledge of God would bring a greater consciousness to the world. Or vice, or one or the other. I mean, or they could be one and the same thing. We read in the parsha the other day, I guess it was last month, where people were prophesizing, and they came to Moses. People are prophesizing, and they, well, what do we do about this? And Moses is like, if only everybody could prophesy, prophecy in the nation. What are you giving them a hard time for? Wouldn't that be something if more people in the world were able to talk to God or hear from God, for that matter, directly?
Well, I think a lot of people talk to God. I just don't think we have the I'm going to say this. I don't think we have the tools. I don't think we have the requisite equipment and consciousness to hear anything back at this point.
It's like properly tuning a radio, isn't it? You're not going to pick up anything if you have a resistor off, if you're not tuned in. I mean, you have to be a good vessel.
Part of the problem is people spend too much time talking and not enough time listening. But on the prophets thing, Zechariah chapter 13 kind of deals with that a little bit. And in that day, says the Lord of hosts, I will cut off the names of the idols from the land, and they shall no more be remembered. In other words, nobody's going to speak the name of any idol. And I will remove from the land the false prophets and the unclean spirit. The word prophets here to me is saying that he's proclaiming that there is a different God or another God or an additional God. He's kind of like not, he's more like a preacher than a prophet. He's just speaking words about a false religion, a false God, or whatever, trying to get people, lead them astray into idolatry. He says, this won't happen. They'll be cut off.
That means that we would lose fear. How am I going to put this? I mean, that's beautiful. We have to, I mean, we live in a world now where we kind of have to dodge false prophets. You know, let alone bad translations, but we have to dodge all kinds of stuff in this world, you know. This is like Super Mario Deluxe here. We got stuff we got to jump over and smash and dodge, and there'll be a time when we won't have to sort it out. Well, when we receive a message, it sounds like it'll be much more wholesome, or we won't have to fear, you know.
It goes on to say, verse 4, in that day the false prophet shall each be ashamed of his vision when he prophesies. Nor will he wear a hairy, rough garment, no more John the Baptist, in order to deceive. But he will deny his identity and saying, I'm not a prophet. I'm just a simple farmer. In other words, what we're doing now is exactly what it says they're going to do. They're going to shut up real quick.
He'll be ashamed. That's another beautiful thing. I know we see that as a negative. Oh, he's gonna get his, but the blessing and the punishment is the same thing. John, you were mentioning that. I mean, to be a false prophet, that's a ballsy, pardon my French, that's a ballsy thing to do. You gotta have some gumption to be a false prophet. In Israel, of all places, it's easy to pass that stuff off here in the nations. Trust me, that's easy. But for you to make yourself a false prophet amongst Israel, or about Israel, or her, you know, her God, and to come down. I mean, it doesn't say he'll burn in flames, he'll perish forever. He will regret. He will, you know, which is beautiful. You don't want anyone to feel bad about themselves, but you know, a person should want to, you know their faults and make good on them. That's beautiful to hear that. Oh, that's weird. I'm having a good night, so I might say different.
Isn't that funny how that works out like that? It's so weird how that works out that way.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I've got another little glimmer of something I'd like to share when you have to.
We have about at least a minute, 1 hour minute minimum. Not 1 hour. You have 1 hour to make your point. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm shooting for 59 minutes here. No.
1 minute for half hour. Go ahead.
You're familiar, and I'm sure you've heard the prophecies. I'm not exactly sure, but I can look it up if you need me to. Where it says that Damascus would become a burned out ruin of a city. No inhabitant, no human inhabitant would live there. Only ostriches and owls and little night critters, right?
Right.
You kind of look up and you see what's going on in Syria right now, and you're like, okay, Damascus could wind up being a burned out, smashed up, beat up ruin. But I tied that in when it said that only the ostrich and the owl and night critters and that sort of thing, just beasts would roam the streets. It would never be rebuilt. And then I kind of got to thinking, on one hand, why is that? Then I got to tie it into another prophecy where you just spoke of it a little bit earlier. They shall know the Lord, and they shall not learn war anymore. And I understand now what it's trying to say about Damascus, whether you want to say it metaphorically or literally. What it's trying to say is about not learning war anymore. Damascus will remain a heap of ruins continuously, forever, and not be inhabited, because it becomes what you call a war memorial. It'll be a sign. It says that people will walk by it, look, and hiss. And shh. What that's saying is, it's a constant reminder. You want to go back to division. You want to go back to baseless hatred. You want to go back and try to find out what causes division among us that leads to war. Look at Damascus. That's what war will do. I'll let you take it from there.
Amen.
What does the prophecy exactly say about Damascus again? Say that one more time. It's going to be burned down. What?
Hollowed out.
It will lie in ruins. No human inhabitant would live there. It would become the home of birds, ostrich, fowl, air.
And where is that from in the Tanakh?
If you'll give me a second, I'll look it up. I have another device here. I can look it up.
No, it's just interesting. I haven't. I guess I got to do a study on that. I like that. It's interesting.
Okay, go ahead. I'll look it up while somebody else takes it.
No, it's not a big deal. I'll look it up on my end a little later tonight.
What popped in my head was it's just the reminders. And in the I was reading when I was reading Isaiah, I was reading it from Michan Mamre, which is a pretty good site to go to. I enjoy it. That's my go-to for straight Torah referencing online. They will learn war no more. A lot of translations say they will know war no more. And if one thing we've learned tonight is that it's not about it's that there's going to be a reminder. That struck me the same place there's going to be a graveyard after the Battle of Gog and Magog. It takes 7 years to bury the dead. Another reminder. It's kind of heartbreaking when you think about it, but another reminder that we're going to have to, that we, and I'm sure that we'll get over it, but we as a people will have to, just think of an era where that will be a thing of shame and great sadness. And if a graveyard that takes 7 years to build, if you will, it's going to be hard to miss.
Okay.
I guess. Go ahead, Ross.
It deals with it in a few places. Isaiah 17:1 starts it. The oracle concerning Damascus. Behold, Damascus is about to be removed from being a city and will become a fallen ruin. That's one place where it's mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah 17:3, the fortified city will disappear from Ephraim. Sovereignty will disappear from Damascus. Jeremiah chapter 49, 24 is an allusion to it. Has become helpless. She's turned away to flee. Panic has gripped her. Distress and pangs have taken hold of her like a woman in childbirth. how the city of praise has not been deserted. Oh, my town of joy. I'll keep going. You just keep going.
Rosalie was talking about Chernobyl, and of course, I'm getting visions in my mind of a desolate, ruined, unpopulated, unactive place, like pictures I've seen. And Gav's over here. My family lived in Chernobyl. I've been there.
Yeah, I just think the power plant is shut down, not the entire city.
Oh, it's the entire.
It is the entire city.
Yep, it's an entire 30-kilometer radius around it. Most people were forced out in 1986, including my parents.
Okay, so it was evacuated eventually.
Oh yeah, there are still a couple people that still live there though, that chose not to leave and were very adamant about staying.
Rush can take anything.
But I mean, you can go visit. It's safe to go visit. You can walk around and see things. There are certain areas you don't go. There are certain places it's safer than others, but you don't take anything with you. Any souvenir, anything you find there, you leave there. You can't wear sandals or anything. You don't want to step in moss because moss absorbs radiation very well. So.
Ooh.
Yep, I have pictures of the plant actually.
Isn't that outside of 30 plus years later, and it's still toxic.
Oh, it will be for 10,000 years.
Ooh.
That's not. I mean, it's uranium and plutonium, so it doesn't break down. It's not exactly biodegradable.
I wonder if that can be used.
Not really.
By nature, I mean.
Nature is thriving there. There's a bear and wolf population. There's a lot of animal deformities because of the radiation.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see, deer with 6 legs, that type of thing.
Wow.
Obviously not natural, not naturally occurring phenomenon at all. And, in the surrounding areas, the people that chose to leave, there's very, very high rates of cancer. All the people that were involved in the cleanup and the containment when the accident happened, the ones that didn't die all got very, very sick, like permanently sick. So, I mean, there are still people that have to go inside the plant periodically to do maintenance to make sure it doesn't fall apart. I mean, that's basically a death sentence. You're going to get cancer.
Ooh.
Wrong kind of radiation therapy.
Huh.
Absolutely. You can stand outside what they call the sarcophagus, the big dome that they built over the blown out reactor, which is actually the building my father used to work in. He wasn't there when it blew up. He was off that night. But you can stand right outside the reactor building, and it'll be pretty safe. Like, you'd have to stand there for a couple days in order to get, the radiation dosage of about 1 chest X-ray. But as soon as you go inside the sarcophagus, you're absorbing about 40 chest X-rays every second. And so you can't stay long.
Glowing in the dark.
Yeah, and they say that any more than 5 minutes is usually fatal.
Ooh. Let's hope we're more careful in the future. And I assume no X-Men have arisen out of here. We don't have any Hulks or Wolverines or...
No, I mean, it makes the subject for great horror novels. There have been a couple movies about, mutants from Chernobyl, that type of thing, but it's all fiction.
Yeah.
The scariest thing about Ukraine is the people that live there.
Yeah, it sounds it. Yeah, I was telling you, we had one of our reporters went over there with some of the Oklahoma reserve that were pulled off American soil to go help the Ukrainians. Very, very favorable report from him, but he was with the troops, which would make a difference in what you say, I'm sure. So what do we know about this Messiah dude? We know he comes from a young woman. So Sarah will not be giving birth to the Messiah, obviously, or a 90-year-old woman. We know he'll be a descendant of David. David is a Levite, correct?
No, David's from the tribe of Judah.
I knew that. Well, I'm going to stop my train of thought right there because I made a terrible blunder.
David was a Cohen, wasn't he?
No, he was from Judah.
Yeah, Judah's the one chosen, the lion.
I thought David was also a priest.
He performed some priestly rites, but he's not a priest.
Right.
He was moonlighting on the weekends for a couple of shekels.
You know, you would expect
Good one.
of Israel to have some. That's why I was asking about a prophet. You would expect him to be more than just a dude, more than just a figurehead. One would expect that. I certainly would expect. I mean, if he's taking counsel from prophets, wow, you know. Young woman has a dynasty, has children, but it's the world itself that we can look at. We don't need to worry about the man himself. Will he be just so right on and charismatic that everybody just attaches to him? Will it? See, this is what I'm wondering here. From what I understand, the Messiah is not the miracle. It's not what brings about it marks the time. Is he going to be? I mean, we've got people thinking the Rebbe, bless him, is Messiah. And from what I've heard, the man was a friend to anybody. Anybody could talk to him. Everybody loved him. How do we know it's going to be the Messiah? Will the Sanhedrin? Will it be? Will there be Cohen? How do we know it's going to be him?
All of these biblical prophecies will take place in his lifetime.
I guess it would be pretty obvious at that point. Sons of David, learned sons of David. Okay, stupid question, real quick. When I hear the Messiah will be able to smell the tribe, or I've heard that's how he's going to sort out those coming home of the lost tribes of Israel. That's kind of a joke amongst some circles that I hang out with. That he's going to smell them, and that is often referred to back to the way that's how you could tell if somebody was purely white. It's how certain people back in the day they could tell if you were the right blood, by smelling you. And from what I always learned, the sense of smell is that which appeals to the neshama, the human, the godly soul. That's why we say a blessing when we smell an herb, and whatnot. Is he really going to be able to smell, or is this a teaching that it's going to be wisdom, or of something greater, or a connection Moshiach will have that will be that he will spiritually know instinctively. Is it actually a sense of smell thing? Am I way off? Nobody's saying nothing, so I'm just going to shut up and hope somebody knows.
I really think it's a metaphor of some sort, because if he had the job of standing around sniffing 7 billion people, no.
Right. Rabbi.
It sounds like something like it sounds like something that someone say in the South. We're gonna smell him out. We're gonna smell a good old boy. You know what I mean? Spot's gonna smell him.
Rabbi Dove would always joke when people would ask me, say it's actually a Harry Potter hat. There'll be a hat that he puts. Have you ever seen the movie? He puts a magic hat, and then the hat knows.
Hat.
What?
How? A sorting hat.
Okay. Hey, how about some Haftorah time? What do you say? All right. Okay, that sounds good to me. In the Stone Edition Chumash, in which I'll be reading from, if you get a chance to grab one, it's fantastic. Get the old ones too, but this is the newest one. This is the big thing, one of the big things. Here, there's a better one. I'm happy to have what I have. It says, during most year, Parshas Pinchas is read after the 17th of Tammuz. In those days, the two Parshas, Matos and Masei, are read on the Sabbath rather than Parshas Pinchas. The Haftorah of Parshas Pinchas is then omitted, and the Haftorah of Parshas Matos is read in its place. In those years when Parshas Pinchas is read before the 17th of Tammuz, the following Haftorah is read. Can anybody tell me where we're at right now?
No, I was going to ask you for the page number.
Yeah. We have Kings, and if it's Matos.
I'm sorry, what's your question? I stepped away from the room. What Haftarah for this week?
During most years, this parsha is read in the 17th month of Tammuz. I don't have my Hebrew calendar out here. I have to dig in and find it. I guess I'm being lazy. In those years, the two parshas, Matos and Masei, are read on the Sabbath before or the Sabbath after this week's parsha. In that case, this week's parsha would be omitted, and the Haftorah of Matos is read in its place. In those years where Parshas Pinchas is read before the 17th of Tammuz,
it's Jeremiah 1:1-2:3.
So
that's the Haftarah for this week.
So that means that
Jeremiah 1.
This is okay. So what day are we in Tammuz?
19th. I think it's 19th.
There we go.
19,
okay.
Yeah.
I should have just.
I'm off the top of my memory. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Okay. I should have just asked the date. It would have cleared it up right there. Okay. Okay. So we're going to go to Matos. This is Jeremiah.
No, Masei.
Huh? Oh, it's Masei?
Oh, no. You're right, Matos. My bad.
It's
what page is it?
In the Stone Edition, Chumash 1192. Jeremiah 1 through Jeremiah 2, verse 3. Are we ready? Jeremiah, if you're following along at home, chapter 1 of Jeremiah. We'll go to verse 3 in chapter 2. Here we go. The words of Jeremiah, son of Hilkiah, son of the Kohanim, who were in Anathoth in the land of Benjamin, with whom the word of Hashem was during the days of Josiah, son of Ammon, king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. And he was the prophet in the days of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah, until the exile of Jerusalem in the 5th month. Rabbi left. He's probably like, oi, I'm going to screw up the names. Okay. And the word of Hashem was upon me, saying, when I had not yet formed you in the belly, I already recognized you, and when you had not come forth in the womb, I sanctified you. A prophet to the nations have I made you. And I said, aha, my Lord Hashem, behold, I know not how to speak, for I am but a lad. Hashem said to me, do not say I am but a lad. Rather, to wherever I send you shall you go, and wherever I command you, you shall speak. Fear not before them, for I am with you to rescue you. The word of Hashem. Hashem said to me, do not, and Hashem sent forth from his hand and made it touch my mouth. And Hashem said to me, behold, I have placed my words in your mouth. See, I have appointed you this day over the nations and over the kingdoms, to uproot and to smash and to destroy and to raise and to build and to plant. The word of Hashem was upon me, saying, what do you see, Jeremiah? And I said, an almond wood staff do I see. And Hashem said to me, you have seen well, for I shall hasten regarding my word to fulfill it. Then the word of Hashem was upon me a second time, saying, what do you see? And I said, a boiling pot do I see, and its bubbling is from the northern side. And Hashem said to me, from the north shall the evil loose itself upon all the inhabitants of the land. For behold, I will call all the families of the kingdoms of the north, the word of Hashem, and they shall come, and each of them shall place his throne and at the entranceway of the gates of Jerusalem, and against all its walls and against all its cities of Judah. Then I will speak my judgments against them for all their evil, for they will have forsaken me, and they will have sensed to the gods of others, and they have prostrated themselves to their handiwork. But as for you, you shall gird your loins and arise and speak to them, and I shall command you, do not tremble before them, lest I cause you dismay before them. And as for me, behold, I have set you boldly as a fortified city, and as an iron pillar, and as a copper walls over the entire land, against the kings of Judah, against their princes, against their Kohanim, and against the people of the land. And they will do battle against you, but you shall prevail. You shall not prevail over you, for I. Let's try that again. 19. And they will do battle against you, but they shall not prevail over you, for with you am I, the word of Hashem, to rescue you. And the word of Hashem was upon me, saying, go and proclaim in the ears of Jerusalem, saying, thus said Hashem, I remember for your sake the kindness of your youth, the love of your bridal days, your following me in the wilderness, in the land not sown. Israel is sacred unto Hashem, the first of his grain. All who devour him shall bear guilt. Evil shall come upon them. The word of Hashem. The Haftorah of each of the first 41 sidros is related to one or more points touched upon in this sidra. After the destruction of the second temple, however, the sages ordained that Haftorahs read on 3 Sabbaths between the 17th of Tammuz and the 9th of Av be drawn from the prophecies that forewarned the nation of the first temple's destruction. For it was on the 17th of Tammuz that the enemies of Israel breached Jerusalem's walls, and on the 9th of Av, each of the 2 temples was burned to the ground. These 3 Haftorahs are also collectively the three of affliction. They are the opening chapters of Jeremiah and Isaiah, and each threatens the dire or threatens the dire consequences that would be visited upon Israel in response to its sinfulness. Quote, "From the north shall the evil loose itself upon the inhabitants of the land," capital L, Jeremiah 1:14. "Your evil shall castigate you, your waywardness shall chasten you." The same place on 2:19. "And your country desolate, your cities burned with fire, your land before you strangers consume it. It is desolate as if overturned by flood waters." Isaiah 1:7. "Nevertheless, each of these haftorahs of gloom ends on a note of hope and inspiration. Thus said Hashem, quote, I remember for your sake the kindness of your youth, the love of your bridal days. You're following after me in the wilderness, in the land not sown. Israel is sacred unto Hashem. Will you not form this time? Call to me, my father, master of my youth are you." From 3:4. "And Zion shall be redeemed with justice, and her returnees with righteousness." Isaiah 1:27. Little commentary. Read from the Gutnick might be easier on the names. Maybe I should have.
Hey, it'd be interesting to see what the Gutnick has to say. Might be some commentary in it.
Yeah, and the as far as the Haftorahs go in the Stone Edition, there's very little commentary. When you read the Sonsino, the Hertz, it's like reading the Torah as far as commentary goes. But yeah, the Stone.
Yeah, I don't know why sometimes the Chumash will neglect commentary for the Haftarah. That's some good stuff there. Don't neglect that.
Yeah. Okay.
The 1460, I think it is.
Oh, so the Haftorahs are in back?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was that again? 11 or what was
1460, I think it's Pinchas, right?
1460. There we go. There was Korah, Balak, Pinchas, which we don't read this week. Matos.
Then it's 1463.
There's some goodies in here I haven't read. I'll read you the opening commentary. This is from the Gutnick edition. This is the first of 3 Haftorahs of punishment, which are read between the 17th of Tammuz and the 9th of Av, when we mourn the destruction of the Holy Temple. The Haftorah, taken from the beginning of the book of Jeremiah, describes his inauguration as a prophet by God and his first prophecy of doom. The Haftorah begins with personal details about the prophet and the dates during which he served. We then read God's first words to Jeremiah, informing him of his role as a prophet, to which Jeremiah initially expresses his misgivings. In his first vision, God shows Jeremiah an almond tree as a sign that God's word is speedily put into action. The second vision is a boiling pot, a sign of impending doom for the people of Babylon, which the prophet is instructed to relay immediately to the people. The Haftorah concludes with introductory verses from the 2nd chapter of the book, which stress God's love for Israel. And it gets a little deeper, but it's a bit longer too. It's not too dissimilar to what I think Ezekiel. He comes down and gives him a scroll to consume, and he eats it, and it becomes a part of him. Not too dissimilar in what we read here, in Matos, in Jeremiah. He touches his mouth. Let me just say that. Yeah. In my prophetic vision, I saw God stretch out his hand and touch my mouth. God said to me, I have placed my words in your mouth. It'll be just, I could just, you know, when people can plant and weave, and I know I'm sounding primitive and stupid here, but when you can begin to perfect art and perfect farming and agriculture, and I mean, living in a world where you can do that, and no demons from behind the, you know, I know people believe in there are demons. You know, we don't have to, I mean, what a time. What a world. What say y'all out there? Tis quiet, Nexus. Right.
I mean, I'm listening. I don't really have any input this week. I apologize. I'm not. I usually have some nuggets to share.
But the nuggets you have are not worth sharing. Keep them. We don't need to know.
Okay.
Fearlessness. That's this week's Torah. Fearlessness. Fearlessness. It's not courage. It's not boastfulness. It's not arrogance. It's not where you can strut, walk down, you know, your chest sticking out, slap the belly when you. It's fearlessness. That's one of the great lessons of the Torah. That, I mean, I take personally because there's so much of that in my training out there in the nations, if you will. Fearlessness. To be decisive in your actions. When you're decisive in what you do, you don't know fear. It's when you hesitate, you know, and that party, who are you? You'll never make it. Don't jump. You're never going to make that. You know, that the voice in your head. That's your Satan. He doesn't have horns and a tail. Doesn't live in a land of fire. It's that party that says you're not worthy. And I know that voice well. Take it from one who knows.
Looks a lot like the guy in the mirror, right?
Yeah. Suspiciously.
It's funny how just a little off. I guess it's not really off topic, but what you're saying, not horns and saying not fire. But it's kind of funny how, like, in Judaism, I guess, hell is cold. You know, it's not like a place of fire. It's like you know, death. You know, in the ground, cold. You know, lifeless.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny how that's like the opposite. Like the other, you know, other religions. I don't want to, you know, not mention them, but it's like you're like screaming on the top of your lungs because you're being, you know, sodomized by someone with a tail. You know,
it's very lively in other health, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of excitement, a lot of things going on. Judaism it's boring, huh? It's just you're dead. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Judaism's the greatest. Judaism really is the greatest. I've been hanging on that great debate room, and I've got such good friends and such good people teaching me, and a great God. You know, you can't get any better than this, y'all. You really can't. I'm tooting everybody's horn for them right now. Yes. Oh, you find folks up there in YouTube land. Yeah. We can't complain. This is the best there is. For Earth's sake, that's pretty darn good in the 21st century of the Common Era.
So we're gonna invite some lunatics into the room. What do we say? Like, keep the live portion open a little longer. Invite some lunatics in. Maybe we got a little something happen.
I could do with some loonies. You know some loonies?
Find Travis. I miss Travis.
Yeah, there's a loon. Yeah.
I miss Travis. I like Travis.
Travis is like Xbox on the other side. He's just like Xbox. He's just on the other side of it. You know what I'm saying? Xbox, very Christian, very flat earth. But he talks loud. He knows what he's talking about. Crazy as it might seem to some.
Oh, Pillbox. You call him Xbox. Pillbox.
I'm sorry, Xbox. Yeah, Pillbox. He goes on and he's loud and he's happy with what he knows and he's happy to talk about it for a long. Travis the same way. You get him on something, man. That boy goes.
Have you met Travis?
Kara. Yeah, he goes by Kara on here, and he's got.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he's a cool guy. Yeah, he's a cool dude.
But he's like Pillbox. When I hear him, I talk to him on the phone a bit. You know, I hear a little Pillbox there, just a little bit. I would like to.
With Pillboxes, though, he's allergic to bullshit, so you know his allergies flare up. You know what I mean? Going on Google Hangout, you know, he gets a lot of, dealing with people here. It could be easily, I added Yarmeen into the group. I added a few people here on the outside. Matter of fact, I did added Pillbox. I added Reuven. I added a few people, Path of Abraham, but I guess they're too busy for us.
I've tried. Pat says he doesn't get notifications, but I send them to him regularly. He's on the list, you know.
Yeah, I add him. His name is there.
Where is Lee, man?
Working.
I think Lee got a job.
Yeah, he's working, I think so.
Which is good for him. I mean, he shaved a massive beard to get the job, so.
Yeah, I think he's border patrol trying to stop all these Americans crossing the border.
Deal with Trump. Get out.
He's done to do right, huh? All right.
No, I'm just...
Lighten up. We're just kidding. Sorry.
Get out, eh? Deal with it yourself, eh? God bless the Canucks. And I mean that as lovingly as I do Yankee, which I didn't say all night either.
Oh, the northern.
Huh?
The northern border he's guarding. Is that what I'm to understand?
Say it one. I'm going to turn you up. Say it one more time.
You're saying he's on the northern border?
Yeah. Lee is a Canadian.
He's in the Great White North.
Yeah.
I knew that.
Yeah, I like Lee.
Sounds like he's from Canada. Oh, hey, I read from the Bible today, eh?
I guess he's keeping out all the migrants that are running from us, huh?
We're still stuck with Whoopi Goldberg, yes. They're all supposed to be gone. Rosie O'Donnell, Joy Behar, what's her name? Goldberg is supposed to be gone. They're still here.
And Ginsburg, she was supposed to go too.
Yep. Come on, y'all. Is it not funny that we... Oh, there went Ross. Is it not funny?
See what happened? You got fucking raptured talking shit about Whoopi, you see?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoopi's all right. She...
I like Whoopi as an actor. As someone political views, that's a different story.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's like most of these people, you know what I mean? I like Barbara Streisand. I like some of these people. I love Sean Penn. One of my favorite actors is Sean Penn. But once he opens his fucking yappa, I just want to swift kick him right in the chin.
George Clooney's one of mine. I love his movies. I love Good Night and Good Luck. I think he's funny when he does, you know, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I mean, he's comedic. I love his movies. But then he opens his mouth off screen, and it's like, dude, easy. I didn't vote for Trump, but you know what? I really wish I would have. After all the spazzing and boogeyman talk that's going on right now with my friends and people in general, my goodness, I wish I had voted for him. I'm a Rand Paul guy, but, you know, he does stuff that I don't like any president, but good night. Wow.
What's that?
I thought the white man spazzed on Obama. That's nothing compared to what I'm seeing now.
Pavlov would be proud. Yeah, from the depths of B.F. Skinner in the Skinner box. Yeah, you got it. The conditioning goes on and on and on.
Well, Baruch Hashem for the Torah, which breaks our conditioning.
Thank you, thank you. But Gav said he was on layover in Italy and then he's going home, so he might have gotten on a plane.
Might have. I might have to just go buy some more of Chaim Chlorfine's books, some more of his publications. When that man writes a blog, I'm like, wow, where have you been all my life? I'm in love. You know, this guy's awesome. I mean, Rabbi Katz is great. I knew of Chaim Chlorfine because he wrote the first definitive book on Noahide ism, or what, you know, the Noahide idea, the non-Jew, you know, in the world. What does Torah say about the general? You know, I knew the name, I knew who he was, never followed him, didn't. But boy, he opened up a blog, and some of the stuff he posts, I'm like, dude, yeah, word, where have you been? He's awesome. He's nice and radical too. He has no problem not being a Hollywood. He goes straight for it, and his message that has just really resonated with me for I guess 3 weeks now. It's a blog he did about. And John, you brought this up, that the Levites, the priests, the Cohen guided the people. Yes, you go to school and the rabbi teaches you. And God bless, you know, God bless God. Bless you, God, for giving us rabbis. But it's the priests that guide the people. And, you know, I come from, you know, we all come from the nations here. You know, when I think priest, honestly, the Catholic priest comes second. I think Shaolin priest. I think that the ministers of the poor and the needy and those who give guidance to their community. Pretty much the same thing I think a Catholic priest does now, the same thing. But I start looking at the Druid priest, did the same basic thing. They handled all the religious stuff, or I guess you say astrological stuff at the time, or astronomical stuff. They're big into that. But they ministered to people. When the people they guided the nation itself. I don't think I've ever put as much thought into what it means to be a Cohen or a Levite as I had since he's written that blog. And I got to tell you, I've always said it, and I'll still say it today, that the one of the world, at least in my country or my side of the world, that we are spiritually starved.
Absolutely.
Not as much as other people, but for those who cling to the Bible, whether you're Shituf or not, you cling to God. But I think that we are spiritually just we're starved for it, and the technical stuff turns people off. A lot of people get turned off by it, but you get into some of that spiritual, the ethical, the moral, the inner workings of the human consciousness, which Torah provides a guide for. You get into that kind of thinking, and that's what's going to attract the people from the farthest, who are farthest from the Holy of Holies, if you will, in the world. That's what's going to bring in these people. That's what's going to make new Gera, new Noahides. I don't think it's going to be the law. I know that's everything we're told to focus on. I think the law is page 1, but once you know how to act, you should be able to do that in a year, 2 max. You got to move on. That's where the priests sleep, and it's not just about being a priest. I talked to one dude
Exactly.
It's the book of Leviticus is not about priests. It's about, yes, we get the ins and outs of how we dress a priest, the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the altars, everything, the altar, everything is contained in that. And then we also have the other half of that book is also how to be a priestly nation. And Chlorfine was like, be a Levite. And I know he's not saying go out and claim yourself as a Levite. Hi, I'm James the Idol Smasher, and I'm a Levite. Give something to me, I'm hungry. No, it means we appeal to that priestly nature of ourselves. You know, I don't think that every Israelite's going to be priestly, as like you would a Levite or a Cohen for that matter. But there's still something about that, and I think that when you come closer to Israel, come closer to Torah, you should. I think that part of human consciousness or that part of your life should be fed, should be nourished, and brought, to flower. That's where we're stuck at in the Western world, and I really think that, Israel is probably in the best position it's ever been to do this, to awaken I think the message of the priests, or the priestly message of Torah, will resonate more in the nations than halakha. I know we give halakha first, Deuteronomy first, but that's what I'm thinking. That's my final thought for the night. Anybody else have any final thoughts for the night?
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy what Rabbi Singer and Rabbi Skobach and all the rabbis are doing. And just, they have a place, and they're like the starting point. Well, they're not the starting point, but they are like, okay, everybody's coming out of Christianity or whatever they're coming out of. And the online livies that are out there are just knocking them dead. I mean, they're just sit and listen to them. But once you know that, okay, they're good for a while, but then you have to move on, because you go from unlearning what you were taught, and then moving on to the different groups like April Neforest's group and James Bush's group and other different groups, and our Nexus page too. I want to remind me when we go off air. I want to touch on this too. But it's like they're definitely needed, and more. I'm glad the rabbis are finally starting to come around.
I am too. I'm very encouraged to see a lot of what's going on, and I think over the years, or as the years progress, they're coming into a position now to where they can hone that message, they can refine it, they can be comfortable with it, they can be confident in what they're saying. And early on, it used to take 3, 4, 5 videos to get a point across. Now they can pretty much sit down and somewhere between 20 minutes and an hour just hit you right where it counts.
Hmm.
You gonna wrap up the live portion here, James?
Well, we don't have anybody joining. It's about that time.
All right, so I'm just gonna read here real quick, and then you'll decide. I have a little Vator.
Please.
You don't mind? Okay, here we go. This is from Chabad of Roslyn. It's called "When Torah Law Allows, Take Action." At the end of last week's parsha, Zimri, a prince of the tribe of Samson, had openly brought. Is that how you say it? Samson in English? I can never.
I think it's Simeon, isn't it?
Simeon. Thank you. The tribe of Simeon had openly brought Kobsbi. Is that how you pronounce the name? A Midianite tent. Since the giving of Torah, the Jewish people have been forbidden to have relations with Midianites. Witnessing this scene together with the Jewish leaders stood Pinchas, one of Aaron's grandson. Pinchas well understood the dynamics and collective responsibility that he had. When he saw that the future of Judaism was intimately was what does that say? Was threatened by assimilation. He didn't sit back. He saw that the leadership was silent, and he took it upon himself to stand up and create change. His method might not have been sanctioned by the rabbis, but one thing is certain: Pinchas did not sweep the issue under the rug. He dealt with it immediately and effectively. Pinchas did not do it because he cared. Pinchas did what he did because he cared. It hurt him to watch Balaam and his cronies plot and almost succeeding in destroying the Jewish people with a devastating spiritual genocides. Balaam's plot almost worked. The Jewish people were at the brink of destruction. And not for Pinchas' courage, we might have disappeared entirely, God forbidden. Pinchas not only junior to the leadership in age, but also in Torah learning. Yet, when Torah law demanded his action, Pinchas did not indulge in rationalization. He did not say, quote, there must be a good reason why Moses and elders are silent, unquote. No, Pinchas spoke up, and then he took decisive action with great sacrifice, and he saved Israel. God had caused Moses to forget the law, providing Pinchas with the opportunity to act and to earn God's reward of the priesthood. From here we learn if one witnesses an action that needs to be corrected, one must speak up and act. In Hashem's plan for the universe, each individual has a certain mitzvot and opportunity for action that is destined to be presented to him and to no one else but for him to fulfill. Pinchas merited to have an entire Torah portion named after him for the fact that he cared enough to get up and act. We too cannot afford to ignore the burning issue of our generation. We cannot afford to ignore the warning signs of assimilation that has threatened our existence of our people. It is up to us, each of us, every day, to join in the fight. We, with foresight and determination, we can still reverse the tide. And sorry about that. Was some? I guess this week's Torah portion is a little difficult to read, I guess.
And right at the early beginning of that, you said something forbidden to marry Midianites?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah, it's forbidden to marry Midianites.
At what point did that happen?
At what point did that happen?
Pre-Sinai or after?
Would they be
off the top of my head? I would say off the top of my head. I mean, I guess it's referring to the fact that I guess it's referring to more general term of like a Jew shouldn't marry a non-Jew, or more specifically, a daughter. A Jewish woman cannot marry a Gentile man.
Apparently, by the time we arrive here, we've got God speaking against the Midianites, and the hero of the story, or this week's our hero, hero, and Pinchas is descended from Midianites. Do they remain Midianites when they gear up?
That's what I'm getting at. No. See, Jethro was the priest of Midian, right? Zipporah was his daughter who married Moses.
Prior to Sinai.
And then Eleazar married another sister, or a sister of Zipporah, and a daughter of Jethro by the name of Putiel. I don't know why they use a different name. But Eleazar's wife is one of Zipporah's sisters. So you've got Jethro in the camp. You've got 2 of his daughters in the camp. You've got 3 of his grandsons in the camp. Can you name Jethro's 3 grandsons?
Well, we all do realize, hopefully, that we realize that every Jew ever existed came from one of the 70 nations, right?
Right.
Really?
Right. The Jews didn't just, as you would say, James, pop up from the ground like a Cabbage Patch doll. I mean, Avraham was a Babylonian.
Yeah.
I mean, his father was Babylonian.
Chaldeans.
Ooh.
What was his father's name? What was his name? Tyran?
Haran.
Tyrants?
Haran.
Anran. Oh, that must have been his brother was Tyran, right?
Haran was, I think, his father. He also had a brother named Haran, which I never could understand why that was, but I mean, he did have another brother. You're right.
Right, because isn't that the name of one of the cities out there in Iran?
Yeah.
That's where they're from. That's where the original from the land. What city did he leave? Uz? How do you pronounce it?
Uz.
Leave the land of
Ur.
Uz.
Ur of the Chaldees.
Ur, yeah. Ur.
Light
I
of
can
the
I
Chaldees.
can never pronounce that.
Ur, or light of the Chaldees.
Ur. Ur.
But yeah, then
I
you have
haven't made.
well
Go ahead.
two. You've got Lot in the picture here too, because I believe the Ammonites are involved in this story, right?
I don't know. In the Parsha?
If not this parsha, the previous, because they tried to pass through three lands.
That's right. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Og, the king of Bashan, was representative, I think, of
One of the kings wasn't one of the kings Og? Moses
Og.
took him out.
Right.
Moses
Og.
took him out. Yeah, Og.
Right. He was the one. Og
The
was
dude
the
that
same
hung off the
Og,
ark. Yeah.
hung off the ark that became Eliezer, that hung with Abraham, that walked away from Abraham and eventually became Og, king of Bashan.
Yeah, he's Ger in the reverse.
Right. He fell out.
He's Gar.
Gar. The Gar.
Gar.
But
There's Gar, there's Geo, there's Ger, there's Giir, Go, Gu, sometimes Y.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap up the live portion of tonight's broadcast. Again, if you want to join in the conversation, feel free to email me, jamestheidolsmasher@gmail.com. Join the Nova Nexus Facebook page. Might make one here on G+2. We'll see how that goes. Every Thursday, God willing, we'll be here, and you are invited. For Yochanan, for Rosalie, Ross, and Gav, and Chad, who were here, and everybody, thank you, and Shabbat Shalom, y'all.